Welcome. Wow.
I like that.
Welcome once again to the Nobody Cares podcast, the #1 show on the internet, entire internet.
Number
one.
That discusses things that nobody cares about, or at least doesn't mind saying that nobody cares about them. I am Casey Peterson.
I'm John Andrews.
And I'm Mike Frazier.
John, you have a story to tell us.
I got a story to tell. So we're working on our show, mechanics. So we start each show with a story. So back in 2000, I believe it was, on a trade show.
The olden days.
I was in a trade show in Germany and in Cologne, and talking to some people there about cell phones. You know, cell phones were starting to become something that we used then. Yes, kids, not everyone had one then. It was crazy, and most of them were flip phones and stuff. But, this guy was throwing shade at me about how advanced Europe was in cell phone technology and usage versus the U.S., right? Which was true.
Very true.
Back in the day, the Nokias, right?
Nokias and Ericsson. Remember that day? Remember Ericsson?
Yeah.
Have you heard that name? Anyway, not a bit. So he's throwing shade at me, right? Mm-hmm. 2000. So we all know what happened. Kind of between now and then, a lot of things happened. This crazy computer company called Apple made a phone in 2006, and pretty much wrecked the world. rest of it, and Europe is pretty much non-existent when you think about big tech. I mean, of course there are some tech companies, but if you think about the largest internet companies, Facebook, Google, Amazon, whatever, they're here. The biggest, the only phone maker that makes any money is here, right? And so I share that story because I remembered that, because I can remember when GDPR was coming out of the woodworking as a thing, and everybody was talking about, oh, it's going to be this thing. My initial thought was GDPR is basically an attempt to regulate what's going on in the current internet economy so that Europe can have some hope of competing. Mm-hmm. Now, that's what I thought. People can agree with me or disagree with me, but that's really what I thought. And anytime I think about internet regulation, that's sort of what I thought. So it was interesting as I was writing an article. Our show today is about nobody cares about privacy, right? And I think I had a couple of people really react strongly to me on that, because obviously a lot of people do care about privacy, but we continue to use things that we know aren't private, right? Government continues to really not do anything about it, mm-hmm. And companies, Apple's shutting down, as I mentioned in my article, Apple's shutting down their do not track functionality because nobody follows it. It was an industry standard that they developed so they could not get regulation, and basically websites just ignore it. So my proposition for this talk is this podcast is nobody cares about privacy. I just really believe it is what it is. We're all going to go on, and the media is going to squawk about it because the media is getting killed by the internet as well. But at the end of the day, are you going to stop using Facebook?
Right. Well, I think it goes back to what is consumer expectation, at least in the U.S. And I think that may be why GDPR came from the EU. In the U.S., I think there's generally a perception that there is no privacy online.
Right.
We've seen the leaks. Even stuff from Snapchat can get leaked. Things that we consider secure, we know we're not really secure. We even, I and most people I know even talk to my children as they go online and start getting in social media. Never share anything that you don't want your boss seeing.
Or your mom.
20 years from now.
Anyway,
right, certainly not your parents.
Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And I really, if I put something online, I have very little expectation of privacy. We have the Bezos scandal happening right now, which I hate to even call it a scandal. It's just adults doing adult
what
things,
people do,
doing
right.
what people do.
Yeah.
And
he had a great post.
What was that?
Bezos had a great post over the weekend about was it the National Enquirer?
Yeah. It was a great post where he just kind of owned up to what he did. Hey, you know,
I'm not going to be blackmailed about it, and here's what it is, and let's move on.
And that guy from the National Enquirer, his name is really Mr. Pecker. That was funny.
It is.
You absolutely cannot make that up. Yeah.
Truth is absolutely stranger than fiction. So, so Jeff Jarvis said one time that Germany is super paranoid about privacy, about everything except their private parts. That they don't mind public nudity for some reason, but Germany, I think especially, and most of the EU in general, has a very different perception of privacy online. But I tend to agree. I think no one in the U.S. cares about privacy.
Yeah, well, but are people in Germany stopping to use their phones? Because your phone is, I mean, the very nature of how a smartphone works makes it not private. I mean, it just does. I'm sorry, but if you are that concerned, don't use a freaking smartphone.
Right. Well, and I think, and I have some additional thoughts on GDPR and even our U.S. companies, but you know, I think that addressing privacy online and through mobile with this kind of regulation, I get the concept of it, but what can you actually do about it?
Right.
You know, if you say, well, we're just really going to crack down, we're going to pass government regulations on privacy. Well, if the privacy is going to be that top notch, then the government needs to be able to get some data back out and for criminal investigations and that sort of thing. So if there's a back door, someone's going to exploit it. And then the only people who have access to your information are probably people I don't trust, which is the government and hackers.
And that doesn't sound good.
Right. That doesn't sound good.
So Mike, talk about your experience. So you're using a new browser.
That's right. Last week, I don't even know how I came across it, but I started reading about the Brave browser, and if you go to brave.com, on their homepage it says you are not a product, and their whole thesis is they're going to block the ads, they're going to block the trackers, they're making sure the sites you visit are secure, so they're going to give you the the SSL warning. And on the homepage, every time you log on, it'll tell you how many things that they've blocked, and they actually have a rolling time tally on how much time they've saved you from interference from ads popping up. And I tell you what, I've been using it since last Friday, and it is fast. Everything loads faster. Some of the sites that I manage, I went back in and I stripped out all the ads that it was serving up. It wasn't doing anything anyway because no one looks at them. So, yeah, well, why even have them in there, right? But they also have a browser for your phone too. I have not downloaded that yet, but that'll be next. So. The interesting thing, though, is that it's built on the blockchain, and obviously anything that's built on the blockchain, kind of going back to your point on social, don't post anything you don't want anybody else to see. When things go all blockchain, then it's always going to be on there. So
it never goes away.
And I'm always amazed with with Mike when my older daughter was growing up in the MySpace and Facebook and all of the rise of that in the mid 2000s or mid 2000s. I told her, I said, don't post things that your aunts and uncles are looking at you, things like that. And I had some of her friends that had no filter, I was like, because when we grew up in the 70s and 80s, we could talk to our friends a different way. and my parents weren't like watching it in real time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we were out at the baseball field.
Right.
Our parents were at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And could not hear our conversations.
What we said.
Or did we put them in print, actually, which was
right.
Thank God.
So, yeah, it's amazing how things have evolved, and I just love the fact that now inside the Brave browser, you can select what search engine you want to use. So right now, I'm still using Google just because of the work that I do, and I do like Google.
You like DuckDuckGo?
But you can select DuckDuckGo, which is
so DuckDuckGo. Actually, speaking of this, I've actually started getting ads for them recently. Really? I didn't even realize they were still around. But they're in the middle of a big push. I think riding this growing wave of pushback on privacy. And they say, hey, we're not going to serve you ads based on your search. Your searches are safe with us. We're not going to do anything with it that tailors advertising and customizes an experience somewhere else. We're just going to give you search, and it's private. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool concept. Which I think
how they make money.
I don't know. Probably ads. But
probably ads.
I think it just shows how difficult this topic is. Though clearly there's some sort of private solution.
Yeah.
Because DuckDuckGo's coming, Brave's coming. For people who are concerned about privacy, those are really good opportunities. Your note on the blockchain, I think, illustrates how difficult it is to solve this problem with regulation, because we are moving to that and things will never go away. I don't know if y'all caught Jack Dorsey's interview with Joe Rogan here in the last few days, but that's one of the things that he touched on, which is, right now we're dealing with all of these things like harassment and bullying and hate speech and all the stuff, and Twitter, I think especially more than anyone else, really struggles with where do you draw the line? What type of behavior gets you shadow banned? What type of behavior gets you permanently banned? And there's been a lot of press coverage on that, but you can tell where Jack's mind is we're moving to a place where Twitter and everything else is going to be on blockchain, and then the content's never going to go away. Twitter as an aggregator of content, maybe, we can cover it up, but the content will always be there.
As some tweet deleters have found out in the past, your Twitter content doesn't go away once somebody screen grabbed it either.
Right.
Which is, but think about that just in permanence. It's kind of interesting. Mike, so you think Brave's faster because all that crap going on in the back end is just stripped out?
Yeah, it's totally faster. And then, so on the back end, which is fascinating, is that it is tied to a token. So they're going to tokenize your attention. So they're going to award you for your attention, and then you can also tip your favorite content providers. So certain websites you go to a lot and you enjoy the articles, you can say, hey, I'm going to give you, 10 BAT tokens, which then they can cash out or invest in other currencies as well. So that whole concept is fascinating. They're going to roll out, Brave is going to roll out an ad program, but I think it's going to be tailored to what you really like. So that whole concept is so fascinating.
That's great.
We'll see if it works.
What do y'all think about the trade-off between privacy and convenience, which is really kind of the economics of how I think about it in my mind, which is why I agree. I think no one cares about privacy, but where do y'all draw the line with that?
What do you think, Mike?
I only give up what I want to give up. So what I want to keep private, I keep private. So I'm fully aware. I try not to be ignorant when I jump into apps and social and when I surf on the web. So I I've always kind of kept that mentality. Anything I don't want out there, I don't put out there.
I give up a lot because I mean, you make my life easier. I'll be your customer for life. What irritates me is marketers that use the data irresponsibly.
Yeah.
I hate getting ads for things I've already bought. Right. Which is a super solvable problem today. It's just suppression and just, I mean, use some common sense. And I really hate getting ads for companies that I have been a customer of forever. Right. I don't like, especially like sign up ads. Like you've heard us talk about this before. Merrill Lynch gives me ads all the time. I'm on Merrill Lynch, let's call it 10 times a day. Right. Trading stocks, doing different stuff. But dude, I am a customer. If you can't cookie me to say, never show me a Merrill Lynch ad unless it's a new product or something, but sign up for Merrill Lynch, like, come on, people. And literally to the point where I may move our accounts away from Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, its parent, just because they're so stupid. And I'm like, how could you be this stupid to a valuable, a frequent, customer? It's just, I don't know.
I loved our cable company up. We went streaming recently, but the cable company I was with, Spectrum Cable, they were notorious sending me either banner ads or traditional postcard mailings of new customer hookups, right? Like an awesome deal. And it was like a third of what I'm paying. I'm like, wait.
Reinforce.
Down here, I was like, hey, can I get this deal? And they're like, no, that's only for new customers. I'm like, wow, okay.
So you're sending me a message telling me that you're screwing me over.
Yeah.
But you can't. Your systems are so bad that you can't stop just sending me new customers. Idiots.
Right.
Spectrum's idiots anyway. So I'm gonna go with that.
I think it's clear that there's that you give up a lot of privacy with our devices and mobile applications. Google, Facebook, and Apple probably all know that we're sitting in the same room together right now.
They do. I mean, there's no question that they do.
Right. I mean, Google in some fashion knows that Mike and I are connected because we get on a show together once a week. Google knows what route I take home. Google tells me what route to take home. Let's be honest. And so it knows
traffic.
Right.
But again, it makes your life simple.
It makes my life simpler. And so at the end of the day, I haven't hit the barrier. I mean, and that's and I think that's why I don't care about GDPR, and I don't really care a whole bunch about privacy, because I haven't hit a barrier where the creepy factor or whatever, all the negative that comes with giving up privacy has outweighed the benefit that I get. So Waze is a great example. It makes my life way better. My commute can be 30 minutes if I hit the traffic just right and Waze tells me which way to go, or it can be an hour if I just take the shortest.
And it knows a ridiculous amount about you.
It knows a ridiculous amount about everyone in traffic at the same time.
I have my calendar connected to Waze. So Waze the day before tells me what time I need to be leaving the house, or, estimates traffic. The day of, it updates based on real. I'm like, yes, here's my information, right? And when I wanted to make it even easier, be like, hey, by the way, your refrigerator told us that you're out of milk,
right?
So go buy,
go deal with that.
go deal with that.
Or would you like me to place an order?
Yeah.
And
by the way,
show up at your house.
All the tech is there, and please do that. Use my data. You've got my permission.
So, and that creates a reality where there's a really concerning amount of data about ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And do I trust Google? Probably not. Honestly, I probably don't trust Google. I don't trust them any more or less than the government, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But the value that I get today out of the services that Amazon and Google and Facebook and all these, Facebook to a much lesser extent than Amazon and Google, but the value that I get out of them on a day-to-day basis far outweighs my concerns. And I feel like probably most of America is there. Google knows who my children are. Like it gives me pictures of them, right? Like it, I store my photos on Google. I mean, Google knows everything about our business. We run off Google.
Sure.
So they know it. They know a ton. At the end of the day, like what is it that is the main concern? I think actually probably nobody does care. And I'll leave it to y'all to discuss after this, but I think that the GDPR probably is just as beneficial for Google and Facebook as it is for consumers, because it's kind of the Rockefeller business model of, hey, you enter a new industry, you establish prominence, then you have it regulated, so the barrier to entry is so high, the cost associated, and that's all GDPR did, I think, is that it makes the cost associated with data retention and all of the tools and privacy tools that you have to give people to even have any sort of website that stores people data. It makes the cost of entry so much higher that you've effectively insulated yourself from a large portion of potential competitors.
Well, it's exactly what happened with GDPR thus far.
Yeah.
Right. So Google's market share has grown in Europe, and everyone else has shrunk thus far. Now, Google did get a 50 million euro fine already, which
they like sneeze and drop that much money. I'm sure
they're sweating. but to your point, if that's their competitive mindset, then $50 million is built into the price of doing business. So whatever. I grew market share 5 billion. I'd invest 50 to get 5.
Oh, for sure, any day.
Right.
We need more office supplies.
Do we?
Cool.
So what else is going on, Mike?
Oh, just the whole blockchain. Like there's an app that I also use called doc.io, and it scans out to see if any of my accounts online have been breached ever.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that was pretty neat. So 3 of them it flagged, and I one of them I did not know about, so I just went in and reset my password real fast. So I love that technology, and I love the fact that there are options to help you remain somewhat private. I don't think you can be totally private online, but I love tools like Brave that make my life faster, to stop the retargeting and redundancy of the spam that they call advertising now. I don't know.
That's really the problem, isn't it? Like, to your point,
it's the freaking marketers,
right? It's the because there's been times I've been retargeted well, and it made my life better.
I absolutely.
Like,
and by the way,
I was going to buy that thing. I was going to buy
experience.
that. I totally forgot about it. It's the spammy, like crappy marketing that has ruined the world.
Well, and marketing has traditionally paid the freight for media, right? There's this interlink that, by the way, is I believe completely unwinding. So I believe ad-driven models are done, right? And
agencies are scrambling.
Well, but because they were feeding off the commissions on that model, and I get it, but do something new, right? Like get paid for your work, get paid for it's not going to be a business model any longer. And I know we talked last week about what's going on with BuzzFeed and all these folks. I don't know if you saw BuzzFeed unionized this week, which is really helpful.
That's going to be fantastic.
A union with a failing business model should be a great combination. Nothing wrong with unions, nothing wrong, but that business model is dead. So forget it. And then Mike, next week, I think a subject you'll be interested in. JP Morgan announced this morning they're launching the first bank cryptocurrency.
Wow!
After Jamie Dimon has spent most of his last year throwing shade at Bitcoin, so that should be really interesting.
Casey, you mentioned that Joe Rogan with Jack Dorsey podcast. they were talking about the Square app Cash, and they're going to integrate Bitcoin at some point into that app.
Please do it. Do it tomorrow. Like, I want to spend my Bitcoin.
Yep. I think that's the last barrier, right? I mean, as soon as
once it's transactional, it's done.
Yeah. One click or your watch, something, and people understand the exchange.
Nobody cares, right? I need a venti black eye and a muffin.
Yep.
And I want to pay for it. Actually, I'd like to just pay for it by face scan. Talk about privacy, but that's him. This is good.
That's the one.
That's him. Give him the muffin.
Well, with food trucks, I know a couple years ago, the Square app had that beacon. If you got close to the truck that was using the Square app, your face popped up in there. But I don't think they do that anymore. I think they went away from it.
I think people wigged out.
Yeah, there's definitely a don't go this far.
But I think that's one of those things too that if you don't think like your face is being scanned 1 million times a day, like you're crazy, because every $100 webcam or remote mounted cam now basically can do facial recognition. So.
Right. I mean, if the part that's transparent enough for consumers, which is I stick a photo on Facebook and it can see who's in the background, but like, hey, you want to tag John in that?
Well, it's hard to take a picture with Facebook now, because if you got a big group of people, like you get 20 yellow boxes, right. Because it's going, oh, I know that guy and that girl and that guy. And so, yeah, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about privacy, and maybe we should just own it.
Own it. That was the point of my tersely written blog post this week. So we'll share the Rogan link, share Brave.
Yeah, we'll put all the links in our show notes
and
for Brave, for your post on Medium.
Yeah, Medium. No, that was on LinkedIn.
Ooh, LinkedIn. Okay,
I switch it up.
We'll share that, and we will see you next time. Well, we will be discussing more things that nobody cares about. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
for joining us every week.
Yep.